know I'm biased, but I love being in this basement. I mean, it is so good being in the basement, and the band, like the last few weeks, the band has been killing it, you guys. And Bo Stinking Dukes, I didn't know my man played the drums. I'm like, what are you doing? He's playing the drums. And then last weekend, Lainey played that song we played today about, stones and the stones are cry out. She crushed it over here. Crushed it. I'm like, what is happening? It's so good. It's so good. Hey, I'm so glad you guys are here. If you're here for the first time, welcome to church. My name is Joel, and they let me be the pastor here, which is mind-boggling to me sometimes, but I love it. I love it that I get to be the pastor here, and I love it that you're here. And if you're not here, but you're online, you guys, we have 2 cameras here. There's a camera over there, camera over there. There's cameras on the baptism. We've got somebody on the baptism. It's like Oprah in here, you guys. It's like you get a free car, this is crazy. But if you are new here, you do get a free coffee mug. So it's kind of like Oprah around here. But we love it that you guys are here for the first time. And if you are online, we love it that you are online. Shout out to the Cordery family today. Mike and Kristen, all of them are at home. They're kind of like feeling a little under the weather, so they're hanging out at home. So love you guys. Can you guys just give it up for all of our people online and our first timers? Love you guys. Well, today, if you've not been kind of tracking with us, we've been in this series called The Year of the Comeback. And today we're closing out this series, and I'm calling today's message, Fresh Out of Excuses. Fresh out of excuses, which is how the Dallas Cowboys coaching staff should feel after they lost the game to the 49ers. Look, that was terrible. Anyway, fresh out of excuses. Now, speaking of fresh, every Saturday morning, you can find me in the fresh produce section of the Ocean View Giant. 9 a.m., listen, you can put it on your little clock. 9 a.m., I roll up there to the Ocean View Giant to be with the other faithful Saturday morning grocery shoppers. I go to the fresh produce section to get myself some strawberries for the week, to get bananas, avocados, praise the Lord, my salad for the week. I am domesticated, people. I love it. I go there. That's where you can find me every single Saturday morning. And I always go by myself. Now, no offense to my family, but I don't mind being by myself. Come on, where are the Lone Rangers? You don't mind being by yourself? Look at this. Everybody who's not raising their hand is offended right now. They're like, what did you do? What's wrong with us? Listen, we love you, just in limited quantities. You know what I mean? And so I enjoy my solo trip to the Giant, to the fresh produce section. But somewhere around Christmas, I got in my car, and the whole family also got in the car with me. I was like, what do you all do? This is my trip. And they're like, no, we're just going to go with you. And so now, they didn't happen yesterday, but my family goes with me to Giant now. Which means the grocery bill just got way more expensive, all right? My kids are putting Go-Gurt in the little basket thingy. They're putting Pop-Tarts in there. Stacy's putting McCormick meatloaf packets in there. Blech. No offense to Stacy or McCormick. I hate meatloaf, okay? I hate it. So you put applesauce with ground beef, stop it. Anyway, I don't like it. So anyway, my whole family's been coming with me. And so last weekend, my whole family's with me. We get all the stuff. And Stacy and I, we're loading up the trunk. We're in the parking lot. We're loading up the trunk. And we got it all loaded in. The kids are in the car. And Stacy, she starts closing the trunk. And she closes the trunk 90% of the way. We're talking there's 2 inches left. And then in an unprecedented marriage move, Stacy removes her hand from the 90% closed trunk. And she starts walking to the car door. And she says, hey, babe, can you close the trunk the rest of the way for me? I'm like, well, baby, why did you only close the trunk? Why do you want me to close the trunk the rest of the way? And she's in the car and she says, I need you to close the trunk because my hands are full. Now, I'm thinking, were your hands not full enough to close it 90% of the way? Am I hallucinating? Am I sucking in car exhaust? What is happening right now? But I did. I shut the trunk and I shut my mouth because I only get one Saturday a week, people. And I'm trying to have a good one, all right? But I'm thinking this didn't used to happen when I come here all by myself. Now I'm buying inflated Go-Gurt. The McCormick packets are tainting my sweet, perfect avocados. And now it's a team effort to close the trunk. Lord help me, all right? I didn't know what to do in the parking lot. And so I get in the car, and on our way home, I decided I wasn't going to say anything, but my mouth just started forming words. This ever happened to you before? I had no control over it, okay? There's an excuse right there. I had no control. But I was like, hey, honey bunches, babe, can we talk about the trunk closing situation? I'm going to need some clarity on that. And the way you answer this is going to really determine all future Triant trips that we go as a family. Just speak directly into the mic and answer for yourself, okay, please? And no hesitation. Sage is like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I just made him an excuse. I was cold. I wanted to get in the car. I'm sorry. It was so easy. I was like, wait, is this a trick? We're supposed to argue about this for the next 7 hours. She's like, it's just an excuse. I'm sorry. I'm like, now that I can get behind that. I've done that before. And so I tell you that story because can you relate to just making excuses sometimes? Come on, who can relate to making up some excuses sometimes? We make some excuses. Listen, I'm a pastor, but I also moonlight as the world's greatest excuse maker. I do. For instance, I had one New Year's resolution this year. That's it, just one. My New Year's resolution this year was to work out more days than not. Simple, right? More days a week than not. That's all I want to do. Except the problem is that New Year's Day fell on a Saturday. That's my giant shopping day, guys. And so I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to ruin my Saturday by working out. And I decided I won't work out today or tomorrow because it's the weekend. I'll start working out on Monday. That's how I have, in my genes, I have excuses, man. That's what I do. And I think I passed off my excuse-making genes to my kids. Have you noticed that kids can, they're born great excuse makers? Do you notice this? For instance, I remember the first time I was taking my kids to daycare after we switched out their car seats with their booster seats. And for the first time, my kids, in their whole life, their arms were free in the car. They had never had free arms in the car. And so we had not even pulled out the driveway. And I hear Nora say, Nixon, don't touch me. And Nora said, Daddy, Nixon touched me. I'm like, we have not, the wheels on the bus have not even gone round and round yet. We've not gone anywhere. And so I looked and Nixon's touching Nora. And I was like, Nixon, do not touch your sister. And Nixon said, I didn't. I'm like, I just saw you just touch her. He's like, I did not touch her. I'm like, Daddy, I said, Nixon, you touched her. And he said, Daddy, I didn't touch her. My hand did it. I was like, I will put the car seat back in so fast, you will not have arms to move anymore. But it's so easy to make excuses, all right? It's so easy. We're 22 months into this pandemic. It's easy to be like, well, if this really is the end of the world as we know it, I don't want to get in shape. I want to eat nachos. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe you made the New Year's resolution to jog this year, but you woke up on New Year's Day on that Saturday like I did. You looked out your window, you're like, it's too cold to be jogging today. I'll wait till Sunday. Maybe it's warmer. As you wake up on that day, it's warmer. But you look out the window and you're like, but it's windy today. I can't be running out in this wind, and we make up excuses. Maybe you decided, hey, I want to eat less red meat. But you go, yeah, what? That's how I feel. Carrie speaks for the rest of us, okay? But you go into the Giant and you're like, oh, ribeyes on sale. I'll take 7 of them. You know what I mean? Or maybe you're trying to get out of debt. But 3 words, Girl Scout cookies. Come on. Okay, Samoas. We don't need to go any further. That's where it's at. Or maybe, you're like, hey, I want to read my Bible on a regular basis, but I got kids in booster seats and new Netflix shows. Or, I don't want to go to church every single week, but, it did snow 0.75 inches on Friday night. That's our online family. That's why they stayed home. Okay, I don't know. But who else is the excuse king? Am I reading anybody else's mail that you just can come up with excuses? Like, you're good at this. All right, if you didn't raise your hand, you're making an excuse in your mind right now, okay? Just get over it. But today, I want to talk about how we can be stronger than our excuses. Because I think we can either make progress or we can make excuses. But we can't do both. And so, turn to your neighbor, everybody, turn to your neighbor, no excuses, and say, you're fresh out of excuses, buddy. You are fresh out of excuses. Come on, tell them. Online family, put it in the chat. All right, I like that y'all played along. Let me just give you a spoiler. Here's where I'm heading today. I'm going to give you 2 questions today. This is what the whole point of the message is. These 2 questions for you to answer, and we'll put this on the screen. The first question is this: what's one excuse that's holding you back in your day-to-day life? And what's one excuse that's holding you back spiritually? What's one excuse that's holding you back in your day-to-day life? You know, this could be your health, this could be your, a relationship, your work, whatever. You guys are smart. You can fill in the blank, your day-to-day life. What's one excuse? And spiritually, what's one excuse that's holding you back? And I want to give you a high five right now because you all came to church today. So that's not holding you back. So you guys are in church, high fives all around. Come on, high fives, people. I love it. Yeah, give yourself a hand. That's right. Like, yes, came to church. Well, we're going to be in Luke chapter 9 today. And in Luke chapter 9, Jesus is taking a road trip. Luke chapter 9 is known as the travel narrative. Everybody say the travel narrative. All right, so travel narrative is because Jesus is in an RV and he's heading to Jerusalem. And he's not in his RV heading to Jerusalem to do sightseeing or, so he can post pictures on Instagram. No, Jesus is heading to Jerusalem to go on the cross for us. So Jesus is on a no excuse mission. He is focused, people. And so that's where we pick up the story. Luke chapter 9, starting in verse 57. It says this: as they were walking along, I made up the RV part. All right, some of you just figured that out. Okay, so Jesus was not in an RV, but they were walking along, and someone said to Jesus, I will follow you, what? Wherever you go. Let me pause there. That sounds like the right answer, doesn't it? This sounds like this guy is all in, like, Jesus, I will follow you wherever you go. It's like the first time I saw my wife, Stacey. I'll tell you the first time later on in the message, but the first time I saw her, I was like, whoo, I'll follow you wherever you go. I am all in, all right? I'm all in. And so, anyway, this sounds like the right answer. This guy says, I'll follow you wherever you go. But here's what Jesus says to all in guy. Jesus replied, foxes have dens to live in, and birds have nests. And then Jesus starts talking about himself in third person, okay? Because Son of Man is Jesus talking about himself, And so he says, but the Son of Man has no place even to lay his head. Okay, you all look like, oh, yeah, I've heard this. Listen, I am so confused right now. Jesus is like, he gets out of the RV, and he's like, this guy's like, I'm all in. And Jesus starts talking about foxes and birds. What are you watching, Animal Planet in the RV? Jesus, like, what is happening? I'm so confused. But here's what you need to know. At this moment, when this conversation happens, Jesus is famous. All right, he's like on Oprah. He's like hashtagging, people are hashtagging him. His shows are all sold out. Jesus is famous. And so this guy is like, Jesus, you're famous. I am all in. Okay. Like he's fantasizing. The guy is fantasizing about like being in Jesus's like famous, entourage. But Jesus knows that he's not going to be the person everybody wants to be around soon. Jesus knows he's heading to Jerusalem. Jesus knows that culture is about to cancel him. Hello. And so Jesus is basically saying to this guy, you'll follow me when it's easy, but will you follow me when it's hard? You'll follow me when it's easy, but will you follow me when it's hard? Because when life gets hard, it's easy to make excuses. Isn't that true? I mean, when we're on the mountaintop, it's kind of easy to follow Jesus. But when you're in the valley, that's a whole different story. And when we're in the valley, I think sometimes we start to barter with God. Maybe you lose a job and you're like, okay, God, I'll go to church if you get me that 6-figure job, praise the Lord. Or ladies, you might be like, okay, God, I'll stop dating the loser if you send me a smarter, handsomer, richer, better looking guy. Okay, just deliver him to my doorstep. Okay, FedEx him, Lord. Maybe it's a FedEx driver. I don't know. Okay. But we barter with God, with dates or whatever. And kind of speaking of the whole dating thing, when I was in college, dating websites did not exist. Okay, there were not dating apps. Okay, Bumble was a B, not an app, people. When I was in college, we had basically dial-up internet. Who remembers dial-up internet? You remember dial-up internet? Oh, yeah, listen, young kids in the room, you think the internet's just there. It's just in the air. Okay, no, we used to have to dial into that thing. And it was so slow. And then I think that's why there weren't dating apps or dating websites during dial-up internet days. Could you imagine how long it would take to load the people's pictures? Ladies, at first, you would be like it's loading from the top to bottom. And you're like, oh, this guy, he's got strong eyebrows. He's looking, look at his eyes. They're loading, he's looking good. 17 minutes later, okay, you're like, oh, no, he's got a gobbly chin? No. So back in the day, when I was growing up, we didn't have dating websites. What we had was singles ministry at the church. Come on. Where are my church people? And you remember singles ministry at the church. You remember that? Oh, yeah. Well, you're thinking, that's about finding Jesus. No, that was about finding a date. That's what those were about. And at our church, we used to have what's called The Edge. And a bunch of people who actually still go to our church, all my friends, we used to go to The Edge. It was on Sunday nights. And we'd all go every Sunday night. And before we all went, I'd be like, okay, God, I'll go to church tonight if you just sent a beautiful, single, Jesus-loving girl there who is not going to matter or do not care that I'm definitely going to have male pattern baldness situation in my future. Okay, just send that person. And then we'd all go to The Edge. Okay, and I think they called it The Edge because we were all single, so we were all on edge. Okay, and during worship, all the guys would be scanning the hands in the air, looking for cute girls with no ring on their praise hand. You know what I'm saying? And this is a true story. The first place I ever saw my wife was at The Edge. I'm like, praise the Lord, you are good. Now, I didn't talk to Stacy because I was nervous. Stacy was the first one who made contact with me through AOL Instant Messenger. The original dating website via dial-up internet connection. But I tell you that story because sometimes when we're in the valley or when things aren't where we want them in life, we start to barter with God. And the goal of bartering with God is to make life easier for us somehow, to get a date. Okay, that'll make life a little bit easier or whatever. And the reason we do that is because when life is easier, it's easier to have faith in God. And when life is harder, it's harder to have faith in God. And so when that happens, I think in this story, we're looking at Luke chapter 9. In this story, Jesus is like, listen, I want you to follow me even if life isn't easy. I want you to trust me, but no ifs. I want you to trust me, but no excuses, okay? Just follow me. Just trust me. And what's interesting in Luke chapter 9 is there's 3 back-to-back stories all in a row, and they all have the same point. Jesus is basically saying, listen, I want you to follow me and trust that I'm good even when life isn't. I want you to trust me that I am good even when life isn't. And here's what I know about Jesus. Jesus never promised us a trouble-free life. But Jesus promises to walk with us through our trouble-filled life. Jesus doesn't promise us a trouble-free life, but he promises to walk with us through our trouble-filled life. And so the truth is, I could go around this room and we could all come up with good excuses not to follow God. We could all be like, okay, life is hard and I'm tired, so I can't follow you, Jesus. And I think Jesus would be like, I know life is hard, and that's why I want you to come to me and I will give you rest. Or we would be like, okay, but Jesus, I feel like I'm all by myself. Like Joel at the Giant or whatever. Not anymore. But Jesus would say, listen, I know you feel like you're all by yourself, but I'm closer than a brother. I'm right there with you. Or we could say hey, they walked out on me. And Jesus is like, I know they walked out on you, but I will never walk out on you. Listen, there is no darkness in your life that Jesus can't light up. There is no hurt in your life that Jesus can't stitch up. There is no storm in your life that Jesus can't calm, because the Bible tells us that even the wind and the waves obey him. And so, listen, we go through life and you may not always know what's ahead of you and what's around you, but I can tell you, you can know the God that's above you. You can know the God that's in front of you. You can know the God that's beside you, behind you, beneath you, and he promises to catch us when we fall. And so he says, trust me. Follow me. But it's still easy to come up with excuses, like spiritually. It's easy to be like, okay, God, I'll give to the church. But inflation, I'm more like a deflation kind of giver. I think that's funny. I made that one up. I was proud of myself when I made that one up. Anyway, everybody gets tense when you talk about giving. So let's talk about Bay Shore kids, okay? But maybe you're like, okay, God, I would volunteer back in Bay Shore kids, but I heard the pastor sends his kids back there. And I've heard stories, so I'm not ready for all that. Or maybe you'll be like, hey, I would love to get baptized over here, but my spouse knows who I really am, and I'm pretty sure she would slip the pastor $20 for the pastor to hold me under. And I don't want to be dying in the baptistry, okay? It's so easy to come up with excuses. But there's something when we push through our spiritual excuses. I know I busted on my wife earlier, but can I brag on my wife for a second? Is it okay if I use the stage to get a brownie point? My dad taught me something. This is an aside, but my dad taught me about brownie points. He said, son, you can only earn one brownie point at a time. You can lose many brownie points at a time. You can lose 10, 20, 30, huge multiples, but you can only get one back at a time. Okay, so I'm going to try to get one back. My wife, every single morning, her alarm goes off at 5:30 in the morning. Sometimes earlier. You set your alarm earlier this week for 4:45? My goodness. Okay, so she sets the alarm super early, and she gets up, she gets her coffee, and she's out the door by 6 o'clock to head over here to the operating room at BB to help take care of people. Which, by the way, can we just show some love to our healthcare workers right now? My goodness. If the pandemic has taught me anything, it's that healthcare workers are heroes. And so, anyway, Stacey will work all day, and she'll get home at about 4 o'clock, and then she will work out, because sun's out, guns out, okay? And then she gets dinner ready for the family. Then she goes over homework with the kids. And the first moment Stacey gets to breathe in her day is about 7 p.m. And so what she does at 7 o'clock, all right, is she gets and she sits on the couch and she puts on noise-canceling headphones. Which, by the way, if you're a parent, noise-canceling headphones, essential. I'm against going into debt unless it's for noise-canceling headphones. You need some noise-canceling headphones. So anyway, Stacey puts on her noise-canceling headphones after 13 or 14 hours of on the go, and she doesn't put them on to play Call of Duty. She puts them on so she can sit there and read the Bible and focus. And she can make all kinds of excuses not to do it in that moment. Isn't that true? But she makes time for Jesus. She doesn't make excuses. And that's why I married up, people. 2 words, brownie point. Okay, boom. Anyway. But what is one excuse that's holding you back spiritually? What's one thing that you can do for 2022 to be the year of the comeback for your faith? Because we can either make progress or we can make excuses, but we can't do both. And in your day-to-day life, what's one thing that's holding you back? What's one thing that you're not making progress on in your life that you can make progress on this year? Okay, what's holding you back from paying off the credit card bills this year? Take that. Punch credit cards in the face, Dave Ramsey. Anyway. What's one excuse that's holding you back from choosing your family over your career? What's one excuse that's holding you back from maybe getting in the best shape of your life so you can run around with your grandkids? Because sun's out, guns out, granny. Okay, whatever. What's one excuse that's holding you back? Okay, because I believe that you are stronger than your excuses. I believe you have the power in you to push through your biggest excuse. Okay, I believe you can move forward. In the area you think you're stuck in, I believe you can move forward. Everybody say move forward. Move forward. When I was 15 years old, I was a Bethany Beach pool lifeguard, which is a lot like a Bethany Beach lifeguard, except you make less money and you're less cool. So I was sign me up for that one. Okay, so that's what I did. Now, when I was 15, I lived in Millsboro. I couldn't get to Bethany. I couldn't drive, all right? So I relied on my brother and my brother's best friend, Joel Baker, all right? Yeah, there's another Joel. We'll call this Joel number 2 in this story. I'll stay Joel number 1, okay? But Joel Baker, Joel number 2, would take me and my brother to work in Bethany Beach most days because my brother and Joel number 2 also worked in Bethany. Now, when Joel used to come up and pick us up in his car, it was his first car. How many of you remember your first car? Who can go back to the Jurassic age? You can remember your first car? Okay, a lot of people remember your first car. How many of you, your first car was a straight up beater? Like, it's a wonder you're alive. And like that... Beaters, man. Listen, Joel's car was a 1987 white 2-cylinder Toyota Corolla, baby. Straight up beater. And I looked them up on Google this week. Here's what Joel Baker, Joel number 2, would pull up in my house in. Right here. Beater, man. Now, when I Googled these, this is true. I found out that people now collect these cars and like restore them. It's a Corolla, people. Like, what is wrong with you? Anyway, so Joey used to put up in this car, and I would get in, my brother would get in, and we would drive through a back road in Gumboro called Gumtree Road. Now, we didn't call Gumtree Road. We called it the 100-mile-per-hour road. That's because it was like 4 miles of just straight chicken houses and Phil Hudson, our bass player's family's farm. That's all it was on that road. And the moment we got on the straightaway, Joel number 2 would mash the pedal to the Corolla metal, and you would hear that little Corolla engine go, ee! And he would just take off, and his goal was to get to 100 miles an hour. And I'll be sitting in the back, and I'm like, Lord, just get me to Bethany Beach safe. Okay, look, I will do anything. I will root for the Steelers. I will adopt cats. Whatever you need, Lord, I will do it. I've been bartering with God for a long time. But anyway, we always drove triple digits on Gumtree Road on our way. Like we listened to Green Day on tape cassette, and it's a wonder I'm alive. And so one day, though, Joel number 2 pulled up to our house to pick us up, and I could tell something looked like or weirder than normal in his car or about his car. And I'm looking at it, I couldn't figure out what it was. And Joel number 2 said, well, he woke up this morning and he said that his tire had dry rotted out. And so he had to put a spare tire, he had to put the donut on the Corolla. And so I'm thinking that the same tire that we've been going down the 100 mile an hour, like that one dried out? And he's like, yes. I'm like, super. Okay, great. Now, the spare tire on a Corolla and a normal Corolla tire, not much difference. Pretty much, they look very similar. But I love that donut that Joel number 2 put on his car, because for the first time that summer, we drove the actual speed limit down Gumtree Road. We didn't go triple digits, okay? Because and on a spare tire, it slows you down. Isn't that true? I think that donut saved my life. I think it saved my life. And so, I love that donut. But here's the point of that story. When you're going through life, okay, sometimes I feel like we're going through life on a donut. We're going through life on a spare tire, okay? And we're moving, but we're going slower, because you got to go slower on a donut than you have to on a regular tire. And some of you are very literal, and you're like, what are we talking about right now? Are we donuts? Are you Dunkin'? Like, what do you mean by donut? We're going through life on a donut. Here's the thing. I think excuses are like donuts in our life. Excuses are like spare tires in our life. They slow us down. They keep us from reaching full speed. They keep us from reaching our full potential. Okay, so we'll be like, well, this is just this. I've been like this for the longest time. This is my addiction. So this is just who I am. No, man, change that tire. Or, this is a label somebody put on me, so this is just my excuse. This is just who I am now. Okay, no. Change that tire. All right, and maybe sometimes we have what happens in our past. We may let that be an excuse for who we are right now. No. Change that tire. Go 100 miles an hour again. Okay, change that tire, because you can't move forward if all you're doing is looking backwards. You can't move forward if all you're doing is looking in the past, and you can't change what happened yesterday. but you can change who you are today. So keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. Move forward. I believe that you can come back, and you're greater than your biggest excuse. You're greater than your biggest excuse. And no matter what happens in your life, you can come back from it. I'm reminded by that whole idea, like you can come back from whatever happens in your life. This summer, I was driving through my neighborhood, and everything's normal. I had Nixon in the back of the car, and I saw this lady walking her dog. And something was off about the dog or the lady or something, but I couldn't like put my finger on it. Does that ever happen to you? Like you see something and you can't like quite figure out what it is that's kind of off about it. And so I'm looking, and they're going like full speed. The dog's walking, the lady's walking, but I couldn't figure out what's wrong. And Nixon, out of nowhere in the back seat, he said, "Daddy, that dog only has 3 legs." And I'm like, "Shh, you're going to hurt his feelings, okay?" Shh. No, but I looked and I started counting. I'm like, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. The dog only had 3 legs, people. And the dog, I'm not kidding, my dog has 4 legs, and it does not walk as fast as this 3-legged dog. And now I see this dog 5 days a week. I saw it yesterday in the snow, okay? It's only got 3 legs, but it's like, hoo, 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 hoo. It's insane, okay? We call him tripod, okay? Because, sorry, that's probably insensitive, but this dog is amazing. Listen, when I see the dog, I think, I don't know how that dog lost his leg. But however that dog lost his leg, it has not held him back. That dog is going. And when I see that dog with 3 legs going faster than my dog with 4 legs, I think I got no excuse. If I want to be like a better husband, a better dad, a better pastor, a better leader, a better, get in better shape, like I got no excuse. It is up to me. If that dog can get past 3 legs, I can get past this life. Okay, I can get going. And so like that dog helps motivate me to, hey, I got no excuses. I have no excuses. And one thing that I love about Stacy's family, we got together with them over Christmas, and they were telling me about Stacy's grandfather who's passed away. And Stacy's grandfather had this phrase that he used to tell everybody. He said, it's the most powerful 2-letter words, the most powerful 10-word sentence, all made of 2-letter words. And here's what Mr. Chalmers said. The most powerful 10-letter or 10-sentence word with 2 words. Listen, I'm just going to say what he says, and you just figure it out. Fill it out. His whole slogan was this: if it is to be, it is up to me. If it is to be, it is up to me. That's my new phrase right now, man. Like 2022, if it is to be, it is up to me. I got to push through my excuses. Now God's going to do what he does, and I just got to do what I can do. If it is to be, it is up to me. And so what's keeping you from making 2022 the year of the comeback? What is that excuse? Remember Mr. Chalmers' words, if it is to be, it is up to me. And 39 years of life has taught me this. If I'm serious about making a change in my life, then I will make the change. And if I'm not serious about it, I'll make an excuse. So if it is to be, it is up to me. And so, one more time, we'll put these questions on the screen. What's one excuse that's holding you back in your day-to-day life? And what's one excuse that's holding you back spiritually? What's one excuse? What is it in your day-to-day life, or one excuse in your spiritual life? And maybe you've always held back from taking that step of faith. And maybe you have a good reason, okay? And what I know about like when life is hard is when life is hard, faith is hard. So I'm going to end with a story. Can I tell you a story, Ann? Okay, here's my story to end. A few years ago, I don't know, it was like 4 or 5 years ago, somewhere in that time frame, somebody came up to me after church, and they were like, I just got done preaching, and they're like, Joel, did you see that family that had a dog in church today? Now, let me just pause. Okay, this was 4 or 5 years ago. This is before you all started bringing your dogs to church. This is the first dog in a church. Now we got dogs. Now it's like the puppy bowl every Sunday at our church. I don't know why y'all bring your dogs to church, but y'all bring your dogs to church, okay? So, true story, probably 2 or 3 years ago, I'm sitting here before I'm preaching, okay? I'm about to come up on the stage. This random dog just gets in my lap. It's sitting in my lap, and I'm like, you have parents? Yeah, I was just thankful it wasn't a cat, so it was okay. I was good with it. But this was before we had dogs in our church. And so anyway, the next Sunday, I didn't see the dog or the family with the dog. So the next Sunday, I'm preaching, but the whole time I'm scanning. I'm like, look, where's the dog? Where's the dog? Where's the dog? And they said the dog was over here somewhere. And so I'm like looking, I don't see anything. And then I think I don't know if I said kibbles in my message or if I said tree. I don't know what I said. But all of a sudden, I saw this little miniature dog head pop up out of this purse. And he's looking at while I'm preaching. And dogs, when you're talking, they do this like. So he's looking at me like, you are not making any sense, Pastor. Okay, like you are not. So I got to actually meet the family after the service, and it was actually Mark, Tina, and Gage, who are Mark and Gage are right there, and they are the original dog people in our church. The OG dog people, okay? Like they started the movement. The Puppy Bowl was because of these guys right here. And my kids love Mark and Tina and Gage because every Sunday they would go and see like which dog they brought, because they have 4 dogs, right? And they rotate which dog they bring, whichever dog needs Jesus the most that week, they bring to church. But love them. And what I notice about Mark and Tina and Gage is that they're like a no excuse go to church family. Since I met them, they're like, they don't miss church. They are in church, and I love that. And that's why I noticed that during Christmas Eve, during our services, I didn't see Mark and Tina engage. And so I found out that they all had gotten COVID, and so they were sick with COVID, and Mark and Gage got better pretty quickly, but Tina she was really sick with COVID, and so after a week or so, I think Mark took Tina to the hospital, and they admitted Tina in the hospital, and Tina spent weeks in the hospital, and at first Mark wasn't even able to go see her because, he had COVID, but eventually Mark got to go see Tina, and Tina wasn't doing real well, and they had taken Tina to ICU, and Mark would go visit, and he would kind of relay to me what was going on with Tina, and Mark even got to take one of Tina's favorite dogs in, and that helped her so much, but Tina wasn't getting better. And she just was in ICU, and at the local ICU here. And last Saturday, Tina went to be with the Lord. We lost Tina. I'm so sorry, Mark and Gage. And I want you to know our church family is for you, and we love you guys. But what inspires me so much about Tina is the day before she passed, and you got to imagine she couldn't have been feeling well. This is what Tina said, and we'll put this on the screen. She said, I can either make it out of this because of the Lord, or I'll be seeing the Lord. Either way, I'll be okay. Either way, I'll be okay. To me, that is a no excuse faith. When life was hard, she could have made the easy excuse, but she leaned hard into her faith. And Mark and Gage, what I want to tell you guys is, when Tina was here and life was easy and she was with you guys, her faith was strong, and that was the best moments of her life when she was with you guys. But when life was hard, she chose Jesus. And that inspires me. And what else that makes me realize is that this morning, Tina didn't walk down 23 steps to be in church. She stepped up. She is in heaven, having the greatest church service she has ever had in her life. She's at the greatest church service in the galaxy right now, and she is more alive right now than she ever was in this basement. And her physical body has passed away, but she has a new body, and she is good. And I'm pretty sure that God has given her a puppy upstairs, okay? And she's taking that dog with her, and the dog probably crawled in Jesus' lap before Jesus preached this morning. I don't know. But I love that story of Tina, because when I want to say, oh, life is hard, or I can't trust God because, this or that, I just think of Tina, and I think, I'm fresh out of excuses. I'm fresh out of excuses. And maybe you've been choosing an excuse over choosing your faith, and maybe you have a good reason, but maybe today's the day you take that donut off. Maybe today's the day you get to go full speed in what God has for you in life. Maybe today's the day that you come back in your faith. And you choose Jesus, because Jesus didn't promise us a trouble-free life, but he did promise to walk with us through our trouble-filled life. And I believe we come back where our excuses end. I believe our comeback starts where our excuses end. And so what's one excuse that's holding you back? Spiritually, that's most important, but maybe what's one more excuse that's holding you back in your day-to-day life? Let me pray for you guys. If you're here and maybe you've been kind of making an excuse in your faith and you have a good reason. I mean, there's stuff. I mean, maybe, life has not been kind to you, or maybe you've never thought God would accept you. There's just any sort of thing that you could come up with is kind of stood in between you and God. But maybe you heard this message today and you thought, okay, I have no more excuses. I have no more excuses. And what I love about what Tina said is she said, either the Lord's going to heal me of this or I'm going to be with the Lord, but either way, I'm okay. She had some peace in her, and that peace is directly connected to her faith in Jesus. And so she's in the most peaceful place she can be right now. And I don't want to leave this place without giving you the opportunity to take that step of faith that Tina took so many years ago. And so if you've made an excuse for your faith or you've never chosen Jesus, but today's the day you want to say, hey, I want to take the donut off. I'm going to go full speed. I'm going to choose Jesus, even when life is maybe not what I expected. If you want to accept Jesus today, nobody's looking around. Would you just raise your hand to acknowledge, hey, I'm making that choice. I'm not making excuses. I am choosing Jesus. I am choosing Jesus. Right now, you can raise your hand, and I'm seeing hands all over this place. Thank you guys so much for raising your hand that you're choosing Jesus. I love that. So let's pray this prayer together. If you're a Jesus follower, or if you just raise your hand to say, hey, this is my moment. No excuses. Let's just all say this out loud together. Dear Jesus, today is the day I'm choosing you. And I recognize that you're the Son of God. And you went on the cross to die for a sinner like me. So I accept your forgiveness. And I'm choosing a no excuse faith. In Jesus' name, amen.